No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Hello, guys. How you doing? Hello,
Oh,
Friday. Hello, Friday.
is it Friday already?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Brother Mel, how you doing, man?
I'm doing groovy, man. I'm doing groovy.
Good, good, good.
Doing groovy. All right, we got some. Let me get my thing all situated here.
Yeah.
Whoo! What another day in paradise here on Kauai. Oh gosh, thank you guys all for joining us tonight. Here we go. Here we go. Share, 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 share. Um, tonight we got Dexter Kishida, and he's gonna be talking to us about a bunch of stuff. But tonight, today, again, Kauai, five more cases, new cases, and there's it's
Like,
circulating around Facebook right now is a letter that the parents at Kapaa Elementary School got today that they had a employee test positive, a school teacher, and that's not even counted in the five. This five, the five cases today is a whole different it's a whole different group. The It's not in the states report today. These are new tests. Four of the five, I believe, are travel related. I think no, and I may be wrong.
yep, yep.
Yeah, four of
What
the
up?
five are travel related again.
And one is believed to be community spread.
Yeah, that's right. Four and one. And it's a mix of visitors, returning residents, but people. Charlie, pretty soon we're gonna have to dial up the song "I Told You So." I didn't want to say that, but I don't know what more it's gonna take. I understand that we're moving into a little more more restricted travel with this. You cannot, you got to have a negative test before you board the plane. Understand that's gonna help quite a bit.
Hmm.
Waiava, you heard today, Waiava Correctional Facility,
No, I did not. I did not.
87 new cases today.
One time.
That's the count for today.
Wow.
So obviously that wasn't in the state's report either. But that is it's a community spread because of what, and all I'm gonna say is this, Charlie. Our leadership better get serious like real soon. I
Mhm.
watched the lieutenant governor's star
Actually,
advertiser.
that 87, it started actually was travel related to begin with, from what I understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
because
I
they
know that I
traveled
have a.
they traveled from the courthouse downtown to Waiava. So it's
Oh,
travel related. That's how they did the spread.
okay, okay. Um, but I have a good friend. Our good friend, the grandson is at Waiava. She's worried sick. That's the thing that the numbers don't show. The numbers that we see every day and we talk about, um, those are that doesn't show. It's not reflected in the report about the
Hmm.
families that are affected and are worried and stressed out and it was just incredible today's performance by the lieutenant governor. It's obvious that the battle for the governorship has started between him and Caldwell. While he said he was not going to be political. It turned out to be political, and it was. It's just people need to. When I say people, I mean the leadership needs to put this crap aside and start focusing on the real issue. We talk about. They're talking about this medication now that they can administer. They're talking about quarantine and all this stuff. HPD said we're not even going to do it now. They're being accused or of an audit showed uh, some are saying fraud, but some abuse of overtime. So the chief said, "Fine, we're not going to go out and we're not going to enforce quarantine and so forth." Right after, it's a week after they said they would. But this is my whole problem. My whole deal with all of this is we need to stop the virus before it comes here. How's that? Let's work on the root problem, which is the virus. The problem is in quarantine. The problem, if we stop the virus from coming in and we deal with the virus that's on island and we get rid of it through isolation and so forth, then we wouldn't be wasting so much time and energy on all of these reactive measures. Let's focus on stopping. Let's just pretend for a moment that corporate America doesn't exist and all the decisions you make will be based on health and safety. It's not that difficult, Charlie. but it's not the case. And we're trying to, these guys are trying to play both sides, and people are getting sick and people will die. And that needs to stop. It's time now for these guys to put aside the differences and focus on stopping the virus from getting to Hawaii. Thank you.
Well, that was my post this morning about about the very same thing you just said. Is that I think we would do a better job if they concentrate on what we have now. That's why they always make that claim. Don't take on too much more than you can handle. And unfortunately, there is one where I got a little notice from one of our airlines that's saying that basically they're no longer going to abide by the separation, the capacity fill. They're going to fill the plane up completely, and basically, and they're banking on the fact that it is safe based on the reports. The military, they did a report. Some of the experts that did a report on traveling, saying that the flight in the aircraft, it is safer. And it's hard to believe because yet we are promoting social distancing, and we're asking people to cancel gatherings, right? But yet in a
Yeah.
plane, you got gatherings closer than ever, but it's safe. And yet, if you're outside and you gather and you get cross ventilation and all that, it should be safer. But they say no, it's not. So I don't care how you look at it. I don't care how you cut the mustard. They give you a mixed message, and
Yeah.
it's screwing everybody up, including yours truly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad. It's sad how they manipulate the data, manipulate the facts to get their thing across, and it's frustrating, and it's dangerous, and that needs to stop. That needs to
Yep.
stop. And well,
Yes.
anyway, yeah, we just wanted to cover that before we bring on Dexter. What Dexter is going to talk about tonight is more important now than ever because of what we're seeing. And let's bring in Dexter, Charles. And you can have the honors of introducing this fine young gentleman.
Well,
Oh,
he's got his microphone muted, and now he's got his microphone unmuted. Hey,
Is this
Dex, can
working?
you hear us? Yeah, can
I
you
can
hear us?
hear. Yep.
Okay. You're at a undisclosed location because it looks like you're in a car.
Right. I know. I know. I thought I'd change the scenery so you and Mel kind of feel like stakeout.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our good friend, Mr. Dexter Kishida, now with the City County of Honolulu. He previously was with the state of Hawaii, but I understand you're part of the new mayor's, or is part of the new mayor's cabinet, or maybe you got on before the new mayor. Either way, you're going to be part of the new mayor's cabinet. And we are so happy to have you because we've heard a lot of important things that's being done in the City and County of Honolulu. Sadly, is to say you're not in the health department. It'll be wonders if you were there, my friend. It'll be wonders if you were there, but you're not. But nevertheless, you still have an important task that you're gonna share with the people. But we're really glad to have you on tonight. So tell us what's been happening, my brother. What's been happening?
Yeah, I recently made the jump over to City and County of Honolulu. I had the privilege of working with the Department of Education for a number of years, and last on Farm to School. Recently, I took the jump over to the city because they opened up a position for food security and sustainability, and to focus on looking at food systems on Oahu to secure it. During our pandemic, we've seen a doubling in some areas of those really needing food because of job loss, a number of reasons, but really just the need was great. And so I made the jump over to not only work on the immediate needs of utilizing CARES funds to get out to both the ag sector as well as our most vulnerable populations, but to work on some longer term plans, because one thing we've also learned is this extreme reliance on tourism was maybe not the best plan. We need to start diversifying a little bit. And so agriculture was and can be, again, a very viable sector that we can invest and grow. definitely see tourism, but maybe we can even look at tourism a little differently, including with our agriculture, right? Like we can discuss things like ag tourism and authentic ag tourism. Volunteer tourism has been a really big thing. So imagine getting, like, this is my ideal situation, right? We put packages together where people pay to weed your lo'i. I mean, imagine, but these tourists from the mainland get this authentic experience of coming in and being in a native crop, and you get to win because you get to have somebody pull all the weeds and pay you for it, right? So let's see how we can really think creatively as we go into this new economy. But the most recent project that we're looking at and that we've started and bringing people together is sort of related to what I used to do. And it's working with government and private institutions to buy more local. And while there's a lot of community supported agriculture, those bags that are given out or bought, farmers markets are making a comeback in most of the state. We're looking at diversifying agriculture as well in different markets, and the institutional market is really untapped. The farm to school, farm to state, even farm to prisons, which doesn't sound as sexy as farm to school, but why not? It's a government funded institution. So why not invest that government money in local ag? And so looking at all of that, bringing people together to focus on the demand side, so the institutions to buy more local, but then also supporting the supply end and putting together like small business resource networks for the smaller farms to really figure out and how they can play in this bigger market as well. Because while our larger farms have the resources and the legal know-how of to play with the government, being in government for a few years, we're kind of scary and quite honestly hard to work with sometimes. We ask for the world. We demand you to have everything in order. One thing out of line, we might just kick you out. So, we want to be able to support that by not only crafting purchasing that is good for everyone, but also give them support to maybe band together. Because while we have some really big farms, most of Hawaii is made up. Our neighbors, 5, 6 acres, maybe 2 acres of growing area. So no way can 2 acres feed a school system even of 100,000 meals a day, but 50 of them together can make a difference. So really bringing everybody together is the key. And so Charlie, I get to work with your wife again. I'm so excited to really organize a lot of this, bringing partners like Kamehameha Schools together, Hawaii Association of Independent Schools, not to mention all of these government institutions. And I'm going to work on getting private hospitals even to the table to look at this, because the other part is, for the last 8 months or since March and since CARES money, right? CARES being that federal money that poured down and to state and then to counties. We've put Honolulu County has put quite a lot of money. Just in the last project, it was $6 million going to local agriculture. And so all that money expires December 30th, right? Congress hasn't passed any extension, hasn't passed a second helping. I bet there's kind of some stuff going on in Congress because we don't even know who the president really is, probably, right? There's no definite stuff going on. So with December 30th looming very quickly, we have to figure out ways that we can still get money to the local ag, because our restaurants, our hotels aren't at full steam yet, right? A lot of them nowhere near.
Well, let me ask you one last question before I turn it over
Sure.
to Mel. For the viewers out there, yes, I have had the opportunity to see Dexter in action, and I wanted to ask you that I noticed from the state side, and you mentioned something that is true, the difficulty in working with the state. It was that number one, validation process and cutting through the red tape. Yet I saw how you did it with validity. It wasn't where someone would make an accusation like, oh, look, they're spending money frivolously. It was all accounted for, and the red tape got cut through so certain programs could be pushed through, like farm to school. When we started off with that, we saw the viability of growing local for the kids, whether it be meats, produce, vegetables, fruits. I mean, it's all workable. None of this frozen chicken McNugget type of deal. That's nutritional wise, it may not be the best for the kids.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you with the state side, and I've been hearing a lot of rumors through the rumor mill that you've been doing a lot with organizations such as the Hawaii Farm Bureau, with our good friend Brian Miyamoto, just looking at the amount of cars. And you think by now feeding people would kind of slow down, but look like it's just gotten worse, because I saw the numbers. Just the numbers are staggering. But I am so first, I want to congratulate you and Brian for the amount of families you folks have fed just within the last month, just within this last month.
Yep.
It is mind-boggling. And
it takes a village.
Yeah,
takes a village. Yeah.
I just want to, I just want to say thank you, for our partners, our viewers on Oahu, and like what's his name, Ron Mizutani said, sometimes you got to put the pride aside, and if you got to stand in line, just do it, so you can get a bag of food. Because too many times, if you're gonna put the pride in the way, you're gonna miss out, and it's there. And he said, he's not there to judge. You can pull up in a Tesla or BMW. It doesn't matter. You're there for a reason. You need help. So don't judge anybody by the car they come in. It's just that the food is there for them to take. So how do you look at the red tape in the city level? Do you think it'll be an undaunting task like the state, or less or more? What do you think?
For one, in this project, we're still working with the state. In fact, Senator Kochi, your guy, Senator Kochi from Kauai, is our executive sponsor on this project. His heart for local agriculture and helping local business is huge. So he said, sure, even though you don't work, even though you jump ship from the state and working for the city, let's do this because it's good for Hawaii. And so, kind of a crazy thing, right? We have city, state, and private sector all working together on this project. So it's kind of exciting. For government red tape, it's partly because I'm hardhead, so you just kind of keep at it till you make it work. But it really comes down to these partnerships. So like I was mentioning, bringing together like a small business resource network to support these farms, to help cut through the red tape, because farmers are farmers. They want to grow food. They want to raise cattle. They want to raise shrimp. They want to raise pigs. They don't want to be filling out 20,000 forms in triplicate. So it's getting these kinds of partners to the table to help them through that process so they can focus on what they're good at.
Okay.
So that's what I really see to help. Because some of it is necessity. Sadly, I'm finding it, and I was a little naive coming into the state 9 years ago, thinking that, let's just get rid of all this red tape. I'm finding sometimes the red tape is there because if it's not, things go astray. It's too easy to not be transparent. So having some of the paperwork leads to a really solid paper trail and evidence of what's going on in case any funny business happens. So it just ensures things are up and up. Now, if there are unnecessary stuff, we get rid of it, definitely. But some things are just necessary.
I always wondered why there was so much red tape. Why, government in general. And I was on a council for a long time, and I
job
saw
security, Mel. No.
No, I mean we make it so difficult. I mean, many opportunities to help farmers, and we don't see it. And we've been hearing the farmers asking for a long time for cheaper water rates and just certain infrastructural needs that they need to allow them the opportunity to farm and to produce food. And it seems like it has never really been we talk about it. I mean, politicians talk about ag every season. You hear it. And a few months ago, probably 6 months ago, when COVID really took hold over here, and people were starting to really get worried, and hotels started to close, and we realized that we were way too dependent. You see, when we had Hurricane Iniki, Kauai was dependent on tourism. Kauai suffered greatly, but none of the other islands suffered the loss of jobs like we did on Kauai. So the state as a whole was able to absorb that, right? They could, because all the other counties were thriving, and they could all offer assistance to Kauai. But this time with the pandemic, everybody's hit. Every island is hit. Every hotel is hit. So remember, they were talking about the reset. We're talking about now is the time to consider the opportunities for diversification, and how can we really take advantage of farming and create uh, or recreate, I should say, because there was a time where farming agriculture was really
Right.
a prominent part of our economy. So it was recreating, invigorating agriculture. But I knew back then that that was going to be short lived, because we always going to fall back on tourism, and we always going to go with the easy way. And the easy way was just ride out the storm and then fill up the hotels again. And all of a sudden, seriously, think about this, Charlie. We've been doing this every night for a long time. When was the last time we heard our leaders talking about agriculture like they did 6 months ago? It stopped, because guess what? It was much easier to just feed the beast called tourism. And that is where, if we don't take advantage, and I think we're going to get another opportunity to do this, because if we look at the trends and the numbers that we're seeing now, we're going to have another opportunity to sit at home when everybody's not working, to reconsider ag. And you bring up some really good points about ag tourism, and we must look at other ways. And this is the time. We're already 8 months, going on 9 months into this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dexter, I haven't seen any initiatives other than the CARES Fund money is going out to farmers, but I haven't seen any tangible programs or ideas coming forward that's going to be sustainable after CARES run out. And correct me if I'm wrong.
No, very true. Very true. And that's what the ag sector is asking as well, right? Like, okay, you're putting 6 million into the ag economy now, but COVID doesn't go away January 1st. Tourism doesn't come back January 1st. So what do I do then? There's no CARES bailout for small businesses. There's no, all of these recovery relief efforts that the federal government was funding. So what happens? And that really is why and what's spurring this institutional purchasing hui, because this is one area that we can have some control over. And yes, we can encourage families to buy local. We can encourage, going know your farmer and all of those kinds of initiatives. But what the institutional purchasing brings is some stability to the market, because there's a known amount of food that needs to be bought, right? When regular residential customers go to the store, it's kind of an unknown, because this week I might buy broccoli, next week I'm not. But institutions are pretty steady. Granted, COVID kind of really ruined that, right? DOE from 100,000 meals a day dropped drastically because there's no in school class, or students aren't in school. But as a whole, institutions are a lot more stable. So that can lay a really solid foundation for agriculture to grow some solid staples for us, that then residents and just your home grocery buying can supplement off of that as well. So yes, it's important to buy local at home, but if our institutions are buying less than 10% local, then we've got to change that. We've got to up them. LA, maybe not the best place to draw a comparison, but they had a food policy council there that started a similar institutional purchasing plan. And in the first year, they changed from spending 12 million on states and areas outside of California to putting 12 million back into the California agriculture economy. Now, we may not be anywhere near as big as LA, but let's say even half of that. If we can do 6 million back just with the institutional purchasing, that's 6 million that's now cycling and staying within Hawaii.
So what real quick, let me just follow up real quick, Charlie. What's stopping that? The state controls the public schools, the state controls the jails, the state controls a lot of these institutions, even hospitals,
Yep.
some of the case. So what's stopping the state from redirecting the purchasing in their own institutions from going local? Because the residual or the trickle effect, while it may cost a little higher upfront, the benefits long range far outweigh sending that money over back to the mainland or wherever for the food. So what's the biggest obstacle from the state saying effective January 2021, all school purchases, all jail purchase, anything that is in the state will be purchased through local farming entities?
The organization of the demand and supply is the biggest issue. And that's one big reason why we've always said no can, no can, no can. Because one side will say, I have plenty papayas. And at that time, then the state is going, but I don't need papayas. And then on the next time, there'll be some passion within the state government saying, we want to buy local. And other farmers are going, yeah, but tourism's going really well. I can get $1 more a pound selling to the hotel than you. So let me do that instead. Versus if we can contract with farmers and with distributors or the ag community, then I think we can really, again, it's that foundation that we lock in to say that the state is committing to X amount. And as I'm looking at food security for Oahu, the reality is we're not going to get to 100% local. I don't see that. Because if there is a hurricane that wipes out all our farmland, we still need connections to other areas to bring food in. So we wouldn't want to say 100% local, but let's start somewhere. Maybe it's saying we're going to get to 40% and then 60%, and kind of see how far we can safely while keeping relationships with other areas. The other part is diet, quite honestly. Like how many folks eat ulu on a regular basis versus rice? We don't grow a whole lot of potatoes. Mahipono on Maui is doing a good job now growing potatoes, but as a whole, not a whole lot of potato growers. Although I saw an article. There's a rice grower now on Kauai, and so growing some rice, but nowhere near the amount that we consume, or at least that my family even consumes. So part of it also, the clientele would have to change what we want to eat.
Let me ask you, I think, I'm trying to get my head wrapped around the local farmers, because I've seen it, being on the west side of Kauai. I've seen lands being available for these farmers to grow. And it almost seemed like they were hobby farmers. They weren't really serious about it. And, they for pennies on the acre. I mean, it seemed like pennies. And I've seen them take up large quantities of land to say, like, grow ginger or to grow papayas. But it was almost like a hobby, because with the land, if you take 40 acres of land and they only plant for 6 acres, I couldn't understand why they would do that. Right. And yet I saw them in farmers markets, which is good. But then I saw the pricing, how high it was, what they were selling it for. So then, I was one of those that saying, okay, I like local products, but if you're going to sell it 3 to 4 times more than what right across the street, because we're at the community college, I can go to KCC and get it probably $2 to $3 cheaper.
Yep.
Then, I guess I got to go there. So how do we address this issue? Because, everybody deserves a right for the opportunity to prosper. But then I think sometimes when you lose track of prospering to the point of sinking your industry into the toilet, then, that's another thing. So would it be prudent to even entertain the idea about buying into the futures? The same way like crude oil. You buy it
Yep.
now when it's cheap, and then you hold that price, you know.
Yep.
I mean, can that be applied into the to the ag industry?
Totally. In fact, there are current ag futures. Just
Mhm.
in Hawaii, I don't know of anybody that's launched a futures type contract. Um, and that is part of, even for institutions, wouldn't that be amazing if government were be able to commit that maybe in 2 years we'll start pulling product, but we want to start getting local oranges into all these institutions, because why are we supporting Florida or California? I love them, they're awesome, but let's support local oranges. But they cannot get the oranges tomorrow, right? It takes a few years for the tree to grow. So that is one thing we're exploring with this group, is how do we rectify the fact that government budgets maybe on the biennium, so every 2 years, right? So I can't really promise a budget more than 2 years in the current rules, but it takes 2 years for the orange grove to even mature to start producing fruit. So that is one of the hurdles we need to overcome with this group, is, or maybe pass legislation. That's why Senator Kochi, it's nice to have him on board, is to craft some legislation to say, how do we overcome that state rule of budgeting every 2 years, saying I have X amount of dollars, but maybe for food, and
Exemption.
specifically for local purchasing, we say you have a 6-year budget time, or something that you can promise to buy something for a longer term. Because the other part is it, how does a farmer get financing, get land, if it's just a 6-month or a 1-year contract, right? The business plan doesn't work. There's got to be, if banks or other investment is going to put money into the ag economy, then they're going to need a 3 to 5-year contract. If you're going to try and lease land, you need a longer term contract than 1 year. It's going to take you 1 year just to ramp up, right? So we need, and again, that's not to sound like I'm putting that this one project is going to solve all the issues in ag, but it really starts the process to change how we do business in agriculture in Hawaii. They do this kind of work all over the US and other areas. One issue we have is scale. That's true. We're a little smaller. A lot of our businesses are smaller. We're a smaller community. We don't want, in fact, a contract that says you got to supply to the whole state. Let's supply for Kauai. Let's get for the hospitals on Kauai, for the schools on Kauai. Just worry about that. And if you can supply to Oahu, great, because guess what? We need it, right? With the 1 million people here, we're going to be doing that. And that's why people go, why are you working on this project? It's kind of statewide, but you work for the city and county now. You're forgetting where you're at. But Oahu really still is a commerce center. The boats come through here. We have the most people. We need our neighbor island friends to help send us food too. It's just a fact. So, and how transportation is a whole nother issue we can tap into later. But yeah, land, definitely, financing, definitely needed, and these longer term contracts will help.
I think the county, and maybe they're doing it on Oahu, they talk about this incubator projects, right?
Mhm.
So, we have like the processing centers that, what would it be if most of the prime land to grow is located on the west side, take Kauai, for instance. Wouldn't it be better to build a processing plant on the west side so it can come straight to the farm, to the processing plant, and the only transportation would be from the processing plant to either the docks or the aircraft to be shipped
Yep.
out, if
Yep.
it was one of those.
Yep.
Then if it would be to provide just for the island, it would be from the farm to the processing plant, from there to the distribution cycle that would go to all the facilities that would benefit from it.
Yep.
Because if you look at Oahu, right? If you look at the farms, Alun Farms, Central Plains going out west side, Haleiwa, most of those projects or processing areas is all located in downtown Honolulu corridor. Right?
Yep.
So if we want to talk about freshness, yeah, it's picked that day, but it's still going to take some time to get there to be processed.
That's why I'm in the car. Traffic was nuts today coming to the west side. So I just pulled over in Kapolei to log in because I was like, I ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Using the Starbucks Wi-Fi.
Don't
Whatever
tell
one
my
you're
secrets.
using is really good, man. You're really clear. It's amazing.
Mobile office,
Yeah, solid, man. I was gonna say you work part time for the Hawaii quarantine Kapu Breakers, and that you're out there sleeping out right now. But yeah, somebody asked early on, is he in his car? Yeah, he's in his car. Actually, he's homeless. He lives in that car. That's his home.
Hey,
Hey,
civil service,
yeah, that's the tough nut that we gotta crack is the length of time it takes for ag to develop, to farmers to reach harvest, and there are limitations in budgeting, but there's also the opportunities, and like you said, through legislation, to allow for prolonged funding using maybe a mechanism. And I don't want to bring up rail, but that's kind of what the rail did. There's no way they could have funded rail in a one budget session decision. They had to find that funding mechanism that would carry on beyond the budget. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that the state has to commit. If in fact they're serious about ag, it's going to come with a price. It's going to come with a sacrifice. It's going to come with an expense. And I think that's the holdback. I think a lot of people, it's so easy to not focus your resources on ag because of the tourism industry that's there. And that's why I kind of, part of me is saying, let's really, I hate to say it, but it's kind of like tough love where, you're not going to have a choice because we don't have the tourism.
Yep.
So we're going to have to look. And then it becomes a lot easier because you have to come up with that other decision. You got to come up with a funding mechanism. Now, are the taxpayers in the state willing to deal with another 0.5% GET to fund ag? I would, to be honest with you, I would. I mean, people, I'm sure I'm the most hated guy right now from our viewers on the show, but it's going to come with a cost. But I think what people got to realize and got to think about, and that's where the decision makers got to look down the road 20 years, beyond the 5-year contract lease or lease contract with a landowner. I mean, 20 years, because it'll take that long for us to see the benefits. And so, and it's a commitment that has to go well beyond this term, next term. I mean, it's a commitment that's got to be held on for a very long time. Because if the state, let's say let's say the state wanted to start on Kauai or a part of Oahu or wherever, and focus all the contracts with institution and local farmers, what that's going to do is that's going to give the local farmers capital to start to expand their farms, buy the equipment, the infrastructure that they need to become more efficient, which in time will drive the cost down. They can hire labor. They'll be able to buy equipment, machinery that can obviously make it cheaper. So, but that doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, the outflow is there, and it's going to take time to come back and recover. But when that starts to happen, and then the colleges and the universities starts really upping their game in ag and getting our young people interested again, because they'll see the success of farms that are existing and that they are making money and they are surviving. But we got to walk before we run, and I think it's too easy to look away because that other easier opportunity is just, hey, give tax credits to movie producers, so they can come down and produce $6 billion of revenue for the state, because we'll give them a tax reduction or a tax break. We need to be doing that for our local farmers. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say, because the length of time it takes for us to start seeing the benefits, maybe a decade, maybe 8 years.
Yep. You said a few really important things. One is the innovation, and like you're saying, Mel and Charlie, that during this time of kind of the world going on timeout, it's forcing us to innovate. but even longer term, Hawaii is the perfect breeding ground for innovation, right? There's all these incubators, like Charlie was saying. Even on the tech side, all these incubators. But in agriculture, we're the perfect place to have innovation happening in mechanization. Because do we need those huge combines that the Midwest has? No, we don't. But for a Hawaii-sized farm, we need to start developing more mechanization that makes sense for our size. So hopefully all of our kids that are taking all these STEM, right, science, technology, engineering, math classes, will start thinking, what can we develop? How can we use cubic feet of sunlight to make photosynthesis happen with our plants versus square feet, right? Like, how can we start really thinking differently about ag? And I'm not saying that it has to be all high tech or anything, but what ways? Because Hawaiians, they were innovative. If you look at Hawaii systems, if you look at how they planned crops, what they did, absolutely amazing. Did they have gas and did they have these huge backhoes? No. But the technology that they use is amazing. So how do we do this modern interpretation of being like our ancestors? How do we innovate today in our system? Because like you said, it's not going to be tomorrow, but that's going to help drive down costs. And as supply rises, the other part is now it makes sense to start manufacturing the inputs here. And instead of just shipping in bits and pieces, we have both the back end waste that we can turn into a product that we use, but also there's scale to have a manufacturing plant for inputs or to create feed or things like that. So it no, I guess I don't have a better statement other than it's a chicken and the egg right now, pun intended. But which one comes first? How do you invest? And you just got to start somewhere. So you know what? There's already money because we're going to feed our kids. We're going to feed our prisoners. We're going to feed the hospitals. We're going to feed other schools. That's already budgeted. So we're not asking for more money. But how do we retune that to invest, to really, right, invest in local ag so we can start this spinning up? Because the other part is we don't want to steal from other parts. We don't want to launch this program and then all of the bakeries don't have access to bananas and we don't have banana bread being manufactured or smoothies not being made because we're taking the bananas. We want to have the institutions purchase, but then grow agriculture instead of just stealing from the pie.
I wanted to ask you, going back at the beginning of this past conversation with Mel, one thing that I did see is that one, because I see a lot of comments and I hear people talking about farming, and what we're talking about is sustainable farming that can feed masses locally. And one thing that I do know just by observing certain attempts made by independents. One is the state can give you the land, but then you got to find a way to keep the ditches open. Okay, that in and of itself, just to bring water down from the mountain to keep the ditches open, unless you have commercial equipment that can go and clear ruts and all that. On average, a lot of these corn companies have been doing that job. But if you look at the cost, it's almost $1 million a year just to keep the ditches open. So if you got these small farmers that want to participate, I applaud them. But they got all these hurdles they got to climb to. Then, I saw somebody talk about vertical farming. It's good if you can get a whole bunch of people to buy into the program if they want to do vertical farming, because like aquaponics, right? You got to get your sources of water. And if you can't, then you really got to scale down and say, hey, you're going to have a depletion rate. What can you grow? So there's all these different hurdles that they face. So because of COVID and what it's done, that's kind of launching what we're talking about now into a direction about self-sustainability, right? Because if things go really bad, if the shipping lines get cut off, we've got to start thinking for what can we do by ourselves. How can we in Hawaii, given with the limited amount of farmers that we have, I mean, we got a good size, but not enough, like you said, for commercial wise, because we still gonna have to bring in something from. But if we can't bring in nothing, how many farmers do you think it will take? And how fast do you think they need to ramp up to get a production in place? Because the successful farmers that I've been seeing are one that plants in bumper sections because they know that when one's done, the next one picks up.
Yep.
And then there's some that they only plant one season, then the rest of the season is a waiting period.
Yep.
No income comes in unless you're going through futures where it's bought ahead of time. But then you still have to produce the product at the very end. Then you got seasonal, which means whether your crop gets spoiled or not from too much water, not enough water. And then you got infestation problems that comes in.
Yep.
So how do you think, and I'm going to pose this to you, Dexter, because I know you worked on a large scale with your previous job with the state. How many farmers do you think it would take to sustain Hawaii?
Oh man, there's actually a few studies going on right now to come up with a tight figure, because if you figure right now, at most, like, now I was gonna say 20%, that's a very, very optimistic figure to say that's about the local that we have in our food system right now. And I guess number of farms or even acreage is really what we'd be looking at. With a couple thousand farms statewide, and we're only at 20%, then either we got to have more intensive farming, so having better soil health practices, et cetera, to keep cycles going, or we've got to increase our ag lands and active ag lands, right? In every island, there's inactive ag lands. And that also is for the city position, that's a very key decision. That at what point do we say we develop, and at what point do we say not to? Because it's very lucrative right now to develop, to make it into homes. And if we don't purposely protect it, then what? And the second part to that is that as the climate changes, and we've seen it already, that how and where do our farmlands need to start moving? That if the heat gets too bad, or the opposite, right? The extremes that we see is a problem. The amount of fires, like on the west side for us on Oahu, or these torrential downpours, just 20 minutes, and so your crop is gone. 20 minutes of pouring rain. See that in Waimanalo on Oahu. Then your crop is gone in 20 minutes. That we've got to also start readying ourselves for these types of changes in what the climate was, because it wasn't like that before. So as much as we'd say let's expand farmland, it's also looking at where the farmland needs to be now, because or possibly do we then look at more greenhouse or something like that? But then that's infrastructure costs, right? So I mean, it's such a puzzle that the pieces keep moving on us. So that's always difficult. Always difficult. But the amount of brain power that Hawaii has, we have some brilliant people working on this food system issue. Professor Albie Miles, Hunter Haviland, a bunch of folks from Ma'o Farms that they're just brilliant. I wish I could take credit for the stuff they think about. Instead, I just regurgitate what they say. or what I've been telling them is, my goal is, you guys are the smart ones. Let me figure out how to make it happen, because what they're saying is brilliant. Hawaii Food Service Alliance, Chad Buck, amazing, brilliant man that thinks systems wide of how we're going to keep our people fed in Hawaii.
Well, one last thing, and I'll turn it over to Mel, that I was shocked. When you look at land that's available to grow, ag land, and you lease that land, okay? It's funny, you can lease 4,000 acres, right? But then when you go on the land, you walk the land, depending on how you set up your rows, whether you're going to have it rows whether you're going to go vertical, whether you're just going to have plot space, plot space, plot space. 4,000 farmable land might only be 1,500 acres, but yet you're paying for 4,000.
Yep. You need
So
buffer zones. You need,
yeah.
it all. Yep. It's very true. You got to have space so the tractor can come in, or you can, take stuff out. So, yeah, very, very true. Very, yeah, it's a complex. In fact, sadly, there's a chef that I forget. No, I won't say their name, but publicly they made a statement in a forum that said, you know what, I wouldn't be a farmer. I think you shouldn't be a farmer. It's a lose money venture, essentially. It's hard work, and it's not worth it. I was like, oh my gosh, you're a local chef. What the heck? I think he was partly being facetious about it, I hope. But it's hard work. I get it. But that's why we need the best and the brightest to go into ag today. That's why we need our schools to put the best and the brightest in ag class to figure out to crack these nuts. Macadamia nut industry, good example. What do we do?
Right now, I'm having my first crop. I planted nearly 6 months ago. I planted 2 rows of Snickers bar, and it's coming up real soon. Yeah, it's coming up.
Awesome. Make sure you gotta water it with milk though, otherwise come kind of tart with dark chocolate. So make sure.
We this pandemic has oh, Charlie, you too much, man. We've created a lot of farmers, at the backyard farmers, including myself. And today, believe it or not, I'm so proud. My wife had yesterday. I'd harvest some. I get to harvest every day. It's lettuce is like, I didn't realize how easy and how much lettuce and how quick they grow.
Yeah.
But I had my full lettuce for lunch today. The greens and the purples was just amazing. And this is like my partner eating his taco salad. He's like, wow, brah. I think I'm gonna start growing lettuce too. I said, bro, you should. Yep. And I think we got so many people now, because I noticed when I go in to buy potting soil, it's sold out. It's sold out. And before you used to have pallets of the stuff. Now you cannot even get them.
Yep.
So I think people are starting to appreciate not just the taste but just how important it is to eat local food. And technology today, and I've been watching some videos from a friend of mine who's actually from Molokai, that's studying some systems, some plant systems on the mainland. They're using it in some states in the mainland, where and I'm not even going to say it because I can't remember the numbers, but a very small parcel of land with the greenhouse will produce the same amount of food plants as 4 or 5 times the size of the land that they're occupying.
Right.
And those are the kinds of things, like you said, the infrastructural costs. Building a greenhouse like that is not cheap. Also, I don't know how it is on Oahu, but on Kauai, if by the time you get your permit for put up on greenhouse on this island in this county, you've lost interest and you've lost all your money before you can even plant your first seed, because you never get your permit. So I'm not sure how it is on Oahu, but those are the kinds of things that's outside of agriculture, that's logistical, that counties and the state has to come up with, giving these guys, I'm not going to say breaks. It's not a break, but expedited permitting and opportunities, low interest loans for farmers that want to go out and invest in these types of technologies. The problem, though, again, if you go to a bank and you cannot produce, like the state ag leases, right? What is it, a year? They don't give you a lease over a year. You got to renew every year.
It's pretty short.
You try to go to the bank and try to borrow $100,000 and tell them, when you show them your lease and it says, oh, it's a year-to-year lease, the bank ain't going to give you the money.
Except for Charlie Snickers farm. The Snickers farm can produce.
I mean,
that one, if it's a good crop, can.
I am surprised I haven't seen a Snicker bar come up on that screen yet, because he has them all over the place. He eats Snickers, I eat carrots.
No, sorry, Mel. True.
No, man, that's what this show is about. It's having a little bit of fun, but also hitting on the topics. and it's again the commitment. Yeah, got to be full circle.
Yep.
Everybody gotta agree. And this is a non-political show, but the election is over right now, so it's not political. But you have a new mayor coming in,
Yep.
businessman Mayor Blangiardi, who I happen to really like. And he seems like he's got the managerial skills that'll help. What I'm assuming you've spoken to him. I don't know, but what's his position or his take on the farming, on the ag, on Oahu? Because you think of Oahu, it's a metropolis. It's big city.
Yep.
It's my gosh, like LA. But yet, man, when you fly over Honolulu, you see there's so much ag land there. What's the future for city and county with Mayor Blangiardi?
That's a good question. He admitted during the campaign that ag he doesn't know a whole lot. So he's really going to rely on the experts, and I think that's what I've really appreciated seeing him so far, is really relying on the experts in the field, and really going the mayor is a nonpartisan race anyway, but really looking beyond the blue, red, whatever color, it doesn't matter. Who's the expert in the field? Get their advice and then make it actionable. That's really how I see Mayor-elect Blangiardi. And of course, that now butts up against some archaic systems, like you're mentioning, right? Planning, permitting, things like that. We've got to invest. If I think government, perfect time too to look at ourselves, should always be, I guess, but perfect time to look at ourselves. What key investments can we make to unlock these kinds? Like, imagine if planning and permitting was more automated, or had the technology or the help, that they're not having just file cabinets of plans that they got to deal with, that it's digitized or whatever it is. So we could get permits out much quicker, and then more construction actually happening, literal shovel-ready jobs, or ag buildings going up in a decent amount of time, that we just didn't lose all of the initial capital that we borrowed and are paying back on nothing. So those are ways that I'm sure Mayor Blangiardi is going to be looking at. What key investment internally can we make to upgrade systems, to empower staff to make these key decisions that could unlock a huge difference in how Honolulu operates. And I think everywhere, right? Everywhere, state, counties. Again, going back to the beginning, the necessary bureaucracy, but there's some unnecessary bureaucracy. That there's some questions we don't have to ask, and there's some questions that maybe it's just a click of a button. That's all you should do, and then done. Because the computer can say yes or no. It's do we really need to? So, yep, it's looking at all of those systems, and so fresh eyes.
So let me ask you, because we only got a few more minutes left, and oh boy, this topic is very interesting to me, because I can see the necessity of how we need to diversify, that we have to kind of look. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb. I never said it before, but I'm going to say it now. We got to look beyond tourism, because if an industry can just shut us down one time for this pandemic, I'm sure there's going to be many more pandemics in the future. And if Hawaii is just relying on tourism, the next one we won't make it. So now's the time. Now's the learning. They always talk about a learning curve, right? I hope our leaders and future leaders, whoever want to become leaders, I hope they're learning that you're going to have to diversify if we don't want to be in this position. And that's when we're so reliant on tourism. Because and so I wanted to ask you, from a farming perspective, right? Is there something that you know of that may seem better than others, like aquaculture, or like aquaponics, or vertical farming, or just traditional farming? Because there's got to be something. I noticed that with water, or new age farming, like vertical farming, I noticed that kids will get more involved because it piques their interest. If you just tell them, put a seed in the ground and go walk the roads and go look for weeds, They go, you might enjoy it for a couple of months. And, I'm not saying that some will give up, some won't make it, but, they're already thinking, my parents worked their whole life farming, and, we struggled. They might be saying, hey, do I want to struggle too? I don't know. But I've seen it firsthand. Farms on the west side on Kauai was given to groups that wanted to, when ginseng, per pound was so lucrative. And they just gave it up. No questions asked. They just gave it up one time. And I saw them harvesting, but it was hard because, they'd have to stay in a garage and they had to clean every little bit, do some trimming or whatever. But, for the most part, and I said, wow, that's a lucrative crop there. Then after a while, it wasn't being done anymore. So do you see any crop advantageous because was it Hawaii pineapple and sugar at one time, right? I see on some of our comments, ulu, because of flour, kalo, taro. But is there any crop that you see of farming that would be one that it will be like the new Hawaii crop per se?
The scary thing, I say that everybody plants it, now the price is going to go down. So no. Diversity is the key. Just as much as resilience or diversity of our economy is the key to resilience for our cities and our state, diversity of crop is really key too. One thing that I really like to see, and what's hard is most local people don't eat a lot of beans, but legumes is one area that I think would be an interesting crop because it could be grown between, so it keeps farmland active all the time instead of just a resting. You plant the legumes because it's nitrogen fixing in the soil. So if we could do more of that, I see at the store, a lot of the frozen soybeans. I figure Hawaii eats a decent amount of soybeans, but imagine if that was all locally grown and then frozen. Ulu is great because for the square footage that you need, you can, get 20 square feet and 500 pounds of ulu. The problem right now is marketing of some of these products. How do we get people to eat more ulu? I'll be really honest. I cooked it for my kids. I tried in curry and a few other ways. And my son, in fact, in front of a camera just recently was like, yeah, it was disgusting. The interviewer goes, kid, it's because your dad's a terrible cook. I hope that's true. But part of it is, up until this year, they really didn't eat a lot of breadfruit. And so it's their palate not used to that. They're used to potatoes, right? Or rice. And so part of it is going to be marketing for these products to get it used to. That's why, as devious as it sounds, putting in our school system is an excellent opportunity for these kids to get used to it. It's going to take 7, maybe 9 tries for them to finally go, oh, okay, not that bad. And so it really is looking at diversity and building up our ag associations so they can help farmers keep that diversity going. Because too often I see, and so I guess I know what not to do. Too often I see farmers looking next door going, oh, that farmer's growing radishes, and they're selling the radishes. So everybody down the line grows radishes. And while that initial farmer got $3 a pound, now you're only getting $1 a pound because the market is saturated. So it's building up our farmers union, farm bureau, these kinds of organizations to help organize some of the planting, I think will also really help going forward.
It almost sounds like a fundraiser. When you have fundraiser and you have a food booth, you have 16 food booths. You try to coordinate it where not everybody doing barbecue chicken.
Yep.
Right? He said, hey,
yep,
do something. Mel Raposo and his fundraising group already couple. I mean, they already coupled the barbecue chicken.
Yep.
Now, Leona, no touches Snickers. You're gonna be doing Snickers.
Right. Right.
So I think that's in farming. You're probably gonna have to do that because if it gets to where you have competitive farming, it's gonna be who can grow the best tasting product, one, and who can grow it the fastest to get it from soil to the market.
Yep.
So that means that the others that are gonna try probably gonna give up, and then we're gonna be right back into the same old rut again.
And can I also add, Charlie, you just made me think of this, that the other piece to this puzzle is this value add and manufacturing piece, that Hawaii can also go back into that and manufacture some pretty amazing stuff. So maybe maybe it's not the full Snickers plant that you're growing, but it's just the chocolate and the peanuts that we're growing in Hawaii. And then we sell it to a manufacturer that actually makes the Snickers bar, right?
Well, what I'm growing now is I grow the packaging. So I learned to grow it into the package, and it seals itself, and then you just pick it, and it's cheaper.
And you're good to go.
I'm good to go, yeah.
That is a streamlined process, Mr. Ione. That is amazing.
No, that's the pocket in me trying to think how I'm gonna make the most money in a short amount of time.
But that breeds ingenuity. That's what I love. That's what I love seeing.
You know what Hawaii has that no one else has is our name. You know, you get you put the Hawaii label, the Hawaii name, the Kauai. I don't know about Oahu, but Maui or a Kona. You put that in front of product. That's just different, and you get an advantage with that. So I mean, we got to take advantage of that.
Can I say, Mel, though, what scares me or what irritates me, and this is something I wish I had more time for, is that issue. We have people outside of Hawaii that are using our name and making tons of money off of that. Mm-hmm. Sadly, if you take our inner island flight, our flights to the West Coast, they serve a Hawaiian bag of chips. Try and look where it's made. Is it made in Hawaii? There's a Maui onion chip, and is it made in Hawaii? So some of them aren't. So how do we? So this kind of like a trademark infringement, almost the branding issue. There was a lawsuit not too long ago of like an Aloha Poke or something on the mainland, suing local companies for using their name. What the heck? You're not even in Hawaii.
Yeah, those people, and again, there's trademark violations all the time, but I think, with the name, you got to have the quality. You got to be able to produce the quality that lives up to the name. And it's just, those guys, I don't know how you can trademark a name of a state. But, the made in Hawaii, I think we need to really take advantage of that.
Yep. And have a
but yeah, you're right, man. That pisses me off. That pisses me off when I see Hawaii stuff made in Taiwan or Thailand or, that's nonsense.
Or Jersey, for that fact,
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Son of a gun. But yeah, ulu. I like ulu. We just start. My wife. Somebody gave us ulu, and my wife cooked it a couple weeks ago. I really enjoyed it. Kale. Awesome. A friend of mine gave me a couple of starters of kale. I cannot stand kale. But my wife made nishime just a few nights ago. And I'm eating the nishime, and I know what's in nishime. I eat enough of it then I see this other dark green. I said, don't tell me you'd put the kale in this thing. She said, I'm not saying anything. I ate it. So I guess I can eat kale if it's in nishime. I can.
Awesome. I never thought of that. That's a pretty good way
That's
to do it.
That's the only way. She had to trick me. She couldn't. Right. If she told me she had kale in the pot would be gone in a rubbish can.
Yep.
But I actually ate the kale in the nishime, and the only reason I liked it is because you couldn't taste it.
Yep. Like I baked with ulu, and the kids cannot tell. Don't tell them.
But again, my wife, I think she made it I can't remember, it was curry or something, but it was good. So you might want to get the recipe from her, Dexter, before you feed it to your kids again the next time.
Yep.
Well, they even with cauliflower, they're making actually like pizza dough.
Yep.
Call it, a vegetarian pizza. And I think with ulu, you can expand and go there. You just need a really good, someone who's good at creating. I mean, I kudos to all of those who take tofu and can prepare them 900 different ways. Tofu burgers, to tofu, like tofu shakes,
almost
cream.
Like fake spam too out of tofu.
Yeah, they do all of that, and I appreciate it. The thing is, you got to learn as much that comes with success. As happy as you want to be, just don't say what it is, because the moment you say tofu, that's when everybody starts heaving. So just leave it alone. They ate it. Tell them maybe 1 week later, back then you ate tofu. Okay. Yeah. So those who create these dishes have to remember, don't let the cat out of the bag. Let them get over it. Let them it's just like when you're going to take on shot, right? You're not going to be sore, but tell them, nah, no sore, don't worry. No say nothing. You let them cry until when the shot off power, when they get them in the arm, then they start crying. And he said, well, I knew it was going to hurt, but I just never say anything. Right?
Why elongate the
Yeah.
pain? No, that's hilarious. That is hilarious.
Oh, Dexter, damn, that hour went by quick. I will say though,
It,
Charlie, my wife made a teriyaki tofu burger for me. She's an amazing cook. And I couldn't believe it, man. It was good. It was
awesome.
so good.
Mel, you're eating so healthy lately. What the heck's going on?
Gout.
Oh, okay. Good reason. Good reason.
Yeah, I had a little bout with gout, and so yeah, I haven't eaten in a long time. So yeah, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fish, chicken. That's it. So
Yep.
anyway, lost a bunch of weight. Um, Dexter, man, the time is up, buddy. You got a few
Thank you.
minutes to share your thoughts with the world right now. What would you tell anybody watching and listening about food sustainability and the importance of supporting our local farmers?
Like you and Charlie grow your own. That's the best connection. Whatever you can grow, grow your own. That's awesome. And when you don't grow your own, buy local as much as possible. And you can be smart about it. If something is crazy expensive, maybe cannot. Right? It's hard times right now. But what you can, buy local. Lettuces a lot of times, tomatoes, pretty price comparable to the mainland imports. So you might as well buy local. Bananas, it's better. It's way better when you buy local. So do that. And then also be ready for policy changes. So yeah, I'll be asking to talk story again as we form some policies to get some support from your viewership to support some policy changes and how to make government better to support local ag.
Okay.
Bingo, bingo. Charles,
Well, as always, thank you so much, Dex. Thank you so much for bringing your expertise on. I have to admit, it was a different side of what I'm normally used to seeing, but very, very interesting topic. Just by the comments, it was enjoyable on their part as well. There are a lot of things that are shared that they know now that's needed. And to our viewers, again, unfortunately, the subject we covered tonight is tied in with COVID because we're getting hard pressed. We're getting
Yep.
hard pressed, and if it gets to the point where our borders need to shut down, then we're gonna have to go and learn how to be self-sustaining.
Yep.
And we've talked about it many, many times. We got people now that have actually take the initiative and live totally off the grid. They're not
Amazing.
using any type of fossil fuel. They're going strictly solar and so forth and so forth. And farming is no different. We may have to change our, we're really gonna have to change our ways and get used to that. So I want to thank all of our viewership tonight. And again, we bring whatever we can to inform and educate, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And we thank you greatly. Thank you so much. Mel?
Thank you.
Dexter, thank you, man. It was awesome. Reading the comments, a lot of people got educated tonight. A lot of ideas and suggestions on the feed. Please go back and check out the Facebook page.
I
There, you
will.
can check out Charlie's or mine. But the bottom line is this: we gotta diversify. We know that. We've been saying it for decades. We gotta diversify. In reality, we only have one industry that could honestly uh, diversify to a level where we could offset tourism, and that's the ag industry. We tried high tech. We tried manufacturing. The cost to do business in Hawaii is
Can't compete.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. We built two tech centers here on Kauai to try to lure high tech companies. Yeah, they come for a little while, then they realize it's just tough. They cannot make it work. We got the military here at PMRF, but at the bottom line is this: if we want to diversify in this state, ag is where we need to go, and we need to focus our energies and resources there. If we're serious about it, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
We can make it work. We need to make it work, and I'm just hoping that our leaders through this pandemic, if we can gain anything out of this horrific pandemic, is the motivation to go look and re-energize ag again. And people like you, Dexter, and your team, and everybody else, we appreciate you guys for putting this in the forefront.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our viewers, thank you
both.
again. Thank you again. Tomorrow night, guys, we're gonna have a special guest tomorrow night.
Yep.
You're not
Yep.
gonna want to miss this. This is retired captain from Maui.
No, Honolulu.
Charlie,
Honolulu.
I mean Honolulu. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
from Honolulu. I want you guys to tune in tomorrow night because you're gonna hear a story tomorrow about how this COVID-19 survivor, what he had to endure. Please show up tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I also want you, the reason why I want you folks to tune in, because he was one of the first to get COVID from Lanai. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna share. But when I called Mel today to tell him, hey, I wanna bring him on because he has a story to share with you. And when you hear this story, you're gonna be left wondering, wow, what happened? It's gonna be, so please invite your friends, invite family to listen in,
Especially those that think this is the flu.
Yep.
Bring them on.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow night at 7. God bless. We love you guys. Take care. Stay safe. Aloha, Dexter.
Yeah.
Shaka. You cannot do this. No. Yeah, there we go.